Hey guys, producer Robert here from The Winning Ticket. I want to tell you about my friend Brendan Carter. He's an insurance broker right here in St. Louis. He specializes in home and auto insurance, but he can insure it all. Home, auto, renters. It's summer, so your boats, your RVs, motorcycles, seasonal homes, and much more. If you have not had your insurance reviewed recently, you're probably paying too much. And guess what? A quote is free. A 5-minute call is all it takes to get the info for a quote and see if Brendan can save you some money on your insurance. He's a broker, so he can shop multiple companies to give you the best rate. Brendan has been in the business for years and will take care of all of your insurance needs. Have you just moved? Give Brendan a call. Teenage drivers, call Brendan. Kids left at home, call Brendan. You can reach him at 618-234-1121, extension 4. Again, 618-234-1121, extension 4. All of his info is on the Winning Ticket website as well, and you can give him a call and save yourself some money.
Prepare for total domination.
I've got a golden ticket.
That's a winner!
Hey everyone, David Sharf here for The Winning Ticket. I had a chance to talk to Duane Colucci, sports and racebook manager for the Rampart Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is Belmont weekend, and we had a bunch of fun talking sports and racing. So let's get to it. David Sharf here for The Winning Ticket, and I am joined today by the sportsbook and race manager of Rampart Casino, Duane Colucci. Duane, thank you for joining me today.
It's a pleasure, David. Thank you for having me on.
I tell you what, my favorite place in the world, obviously, it's Candyland, Disneyland, whatever you want to call it, is Las Vegas. And I know you made your way out there years ago, but you're originally from New York. So can we talk a little bit how you made that transition from New York all the way to Las Vegas?
Yeah, definitely. Always loved being around the gambling. Grew up around the racetracks. My dad took me constantly, from when I was a little baby in the, baby stroller to up to this day, Saratoga, 20 straight years until we moved here. And now I continue the tradition with Belmont, naturally, which is a fabulous, fabulous facility. Just being around the gambling atmosphere and vacationing quite often to Las Vegas. We always had a plan in the back of our minds. Most of my family made the whole move, grandparents included, when they were still alive, God rest their souls. So, my mom's mom and her sister, as well as my dad's parents, we all made the move. It took some time. The economy wasn't that great when we actually moved out here, in New York for real estate and stuff like that. But we always vacationed here, David. And, we always had that plan in the back of our mind to come to Las Vegas. And I wanted to always make a career out of, whether it was dealing blackjack, which I started as a crap dealer, and, gradually transitioned into the race and sports industry, which I found that's where most of my knowledge was. I was always gambling on sports and what have you and things like that. So, I love all stats, and growing up, I was, massive into the NBA, the NHL, MLB. And like I said, the horse racing was always, prominent in my life. I've seen some of the greatest thoroughbreds run, always at Saratoga when the meet, David, was only like a month long. And how they extended Saratoga and Delmar now. And we used to vacation and rent the house every year for 2 weeks. So I would get the prominent races, saw many Travers Stakes, Forgos, just unbelievable. And the great horses that I've witnessed run, from Belmont, Aqueduct. And like I said, I continued the tradition out here, Hollywood Park before they tore it down, Santa Anita, and Delmar. I love the Southern Cal racing circuit. And, it's falling a little because of the quality of the racing and, so many different problems that horse racing has had. Whether it's the drug issues, the PETA issues, but it still overcomes. It's still the sport of kings, and I love it. It's one of my favorite sports, without a doubt. And we always had that in the back of our mind to come here in Las Vegas Vegas, the gambling capital of the world. And now it's been disseminated. I mean, you could bet anywhere practically, and it continues to grow and grow and grow. So it's amazing to see how the sports gambling landscape has grown, and the horse racing has kind of regressed a little, unfortunately. But I promote it as much as I possibly can. I'll be honest with you. I love it.
Yeah. So with that, I've been to your facility. I absolutely loved my experience there. I know you've been with this company for about 20 years, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct, David.
And you were a lines maker before you took over the sports and race book.
Yes. What I did was I worked for Sid Diamond and Eric St. Clair. And before we merged with the South Point, who runs the sports operations now, we actually would do all that our own, on our own. We had our own parlay cards. We would put up our betting menu. And that was my job each morning, to get in there bright and early, put up the baseball lines, go over them with Kevin Klein, who was the director of race and sports, and Eric St. Clair, who was, the president for Cannery Resorts. And we'd formulate our lines, we put them up there, and that's the best part. When you're working in this industry, that's what you want to do. And now we're a little off the beaten trail because Chris Andrews, Jimmy Vaccaro, they take care of that. Vinny Maiulo over at South Point, their odds and formulas are what we put up. As I said, we merged with South Point several years ago, back in the days with Bert Osborne when he was the director. And now, I'm a little removed from the line making, but I still try to stay sharp. I always have my stats, my formulas, my power ratings, and, you never know when you're going to get right back into that. And let me tell you something, David, a lot of these big companies now, they're using algorithms and they're using computers to generate and move their lines. We're old school with Rampart and South Point. Chris Andrews is one of the best bookmakers there is in Las Vegas, if not the best. And, he's written 2 books. He controls our operations on the sports side, and he does a fabulous job. So to rub elbows with legends like Chris, Jimmy Vaccaro, I mean, what a legend he is, as well as Vinny Maiulo, and to learn from these guys and also to add my knowledge, it's unbelievable.
Sounds like you're living a dream, right?
Yeah, well, from my point of view, yeah, definitely. And, if you're into the sports gambling and you want to make a career of it, I always recommend, David, start writing tickets. Even if you go to your local racetrack before you move to Las Vegas, or if you're in Las Vegas, scope out a job where you could write tickets, you could learn the terminology, especially with the horse racing, because that's where you find, where a lot of the younger generation aren't hip to it, and they don't know what a superfecta, an exacta, a pick 4 is, but yet they know what a parlay is, and a round robin, and a straight bet, and a money line bet, and a teaser, because sports is now so prominent. Like I said, almost every state, I think we got like 28 states now where gambling is legal on the sports side. So, I would always recommend, when you're getting into the industry, start writing tickets, place some wagers at a racetrack, see how they are, to learn and to absorb, because, when you do write or you do control a race and sports book, or you work in the management field, you will be responsible for racing as well as the sports side of it.
So let's talk about handicapping on your own. Are you a player yourself on the other side? Are you a handicapper? And when you handicap, I'm going to talk about sports and horses. And let's talk about the sports aspect first. You handicap and you make your own lines and compare. I'll give you, for instance, a gentleman I interviewed named Greg Peterson. He's on the VSiN network. He does mainly college basketball and baseball, and he makes his own lines. Do you make your own lines and compare them to other lines to find an advantage for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I love to gamble, and that's part of it. I gamble on sports as well as horses, and I do a show with Greg weekly on Sunday nights. So Greg is one of the best when it comes to college basketball. I'll tell you, he does immense homework, and he breaks down every single game. I don't go that route. I'm more of a hockey guy. That's my sport, where I really bear down and dissect. Also, I love to bet on the NBA. Baseball, baseball is baseball. It's, more of the game has changed so much. So it's harder now because we don't even list pitchers anymore. So starting pitches were always what was so prominent and what people were looking for. But now with first 5 inning bets and all these different propositions, will you score in the first inning? Baseball has come full circle. So I try to really hang my hat, David, with the horse racing, hockey, and the NBA. Those are my favorites. Naturally, I'm going to dabble in football, but nobody could beat the NFL. I'll be honest with you. I did as fabulous as I could last year. I finished second in the Gaming Today bookie battle. I actually had a perfect week, which I never had in my life, David. I have 14-0. I couldn't believe it. I had to smack myself. It was incredible. But
I'm calling you. I'm calling you. I'm calling you. I'm calling
you. Always get my picks, brother, on the website. So, I have to have those out too by Thursday, Friday, in that range. So it makes it a little more difficult, but everybody loves the NFL and everybody loves college football. That's where we make most of our money as bookmakers. The handle is just off the hook during that time of the season from September, basically through January. So, everybody loves the NFL. And yes, I will create my own, lines, and I have my own power ratings, and I go from there. And, it's very important to watch injuries, especially in the NHL where they don't disclose all that much. Coaches keep it to themselves. You don't know if Braden Point is going to play for the Tampa Bay Lightning up until the last second. Will Filipino play for the Rangers? So, they're not required like the NFL is to have an injury report. It makes it a little more difficult, but you got to do your homework, and you do have to formulate what you feel is going to transpire. And that basically is line making, in its essence.
So my passion is horse racing. I love all sports. I gamble on all sports. And one of the things I rely on people like you, Greg Peterson, when it comes to the information I get to bet sports. That's where I go. And my experts that I have on my show, that's real. The people I look to for the information when I go to bet sports. I really don't do my own handicapping when it comes to that. What I do when I go to my own handicapping in horse racing, I actually start with the racing form with no lines, or I will block out the morning line, and I will make my own line and then compare it to the line makers that set the morning line for So do you take that a step from the sports and do that with horse racing? Do you make your own lines when you handicap a race and compare them, or let's just start with what's your approach to how you handicap horse racing?
Well, I'll be honest with you, David. I'm a maniac. I look for as much info as I can. I'll get Ragazine sheets. Yeah, definitely. I don't buy into the morning line. You could see how far off they were basically in some of these races, these bigger races. You see how, it's just an opinion. It's basically some of the tracks. It's the guy who calls the races. So to make a morning line, yeah, are these true odds makers? I guess in an essence they are, but no, I'll use the route that you use. I don't pay attention to the morning line. I want to see where money is coming in. I like to watch the board, the betting pools. I use the Ragazine sheets. Like I said, I love to have workouts. I look at workouts. I follow certain clockers and their opinions because I know they're honest. And, I'll use buyer speed figures occasionally. I think they're a good gauge for the newbies into the horse racing. It's definitely a good tool to use. Andrew Beyer is a legendary handicapper. He's another guy that wrote so many different books and definitely knows what he's talking about. And, guys like Beyer, Steve Christ, these are very intelligent people. And, you want to use their tools, but you have to use them properly. Don't always hang your hat on them. I use so many different aspects. I have my racing forms, like I said, my sheets. And I really don't pay attention to morning lines. I will watch how the money comes in and also look into future exotics, double pools, pick three pools, and see how these horses are bet and the payoffs. And you could get a real sense of what their closing odds are going to be, because sometimes a horse will open 10-1 on the board, but the pick 3 is paying $40 less, or the pick 4 is paying less than what the actual favorite at the opening of the betting is. So you have to take that into consideration as well. Horse racing is a very in-depth game, and you know that. And this is why I feel, Dave, that it isn't universal, and it's starting to get reined in because it's hard to get the younger generation to understand what a racing form is, what the track symbols are, what the distances are, what the quarter time is, the half, all that. You know, you have to really dissect horse racing, but the payoffs are phenomenal. You have to take that into consideration. You're not laying 110 to win 100 on the Dallas Cowboys as well as 7 points.
Right.
You definitely will get odds unless you're betting on, Zenyatta in a 4-horse field where she's 1-9. You're not going to make money there in that aspect. But so many races, some of my friends, they just bet turf racing because they feel that the odds are going to be better. They could get a good grip on that and they could really make some money. And if you know what you're doing with horse racing, you definitely can make some money.
Yeah, one of the things I really push, I mean, this is an all gambling show. We'll talk poker, we talk everything on my show. And one of the things I really push about horse racing, and like you said, the younger generation, it's just a lot of work, right? And I don't mean like going to work. I mean, horse racing in general is a lot of work. And part of the process for me is not only watching and betting the races, but it's preparing for that moment.
Right.
And it's so rewarding when you're right, because if you can do all the work, have your pick, and the horse breaks bad out of the gate, and all that work goes, right in the crapper, right? So it's so rewarding. One of the most rewarding things about horse racing is that you only have to be right a small percentage of the time to be profitable.
Correct.
Depending how you structure your wagers, right? Correct. And you talk about watching the board. That is a huge. I'll give you, for instance, just a random race at Woodbine the other day. Horses 20-1 morning line. It goes off at 5-1 and wins easy.
Right.
Okay, so if that's part of my handicapping is watching the board and looking for that. I'll go back and relook at the horse. I'll relook at the horse if I passed him, basically on the board. Well, what's really hard about giving out picks for horse racing, and you talk about doing your NFL 2-3 days in advance, which is unbelievable. You went 14-0 2-3 days in advance. I mean, anytime, forget even on the spot, but 2-3 days in advance, wow, right? So giving out your picks in advance, tip sheets or running over a card like we're going to do for the Belmont Stakes, it's so many factors in between now and the time we're actually going to make our wagers, right? So you and I may come up with a horse we really love. Our opinion might change based on the board. It might change if it happens to rain tomorrow before.
Yes.
So many factors, and you can't put 100 disclaimers on, well, if this happens, this happens, this happens, that happens. It's very hard to do when you're giving out picks. But what the emphasis, what I'm saying is there's so much value in horse racing that I wish people would really take the time to understand. You talk about the -110 and laying points, right? Or money line.
Right.
And you're watching a 3-hour event to lay money, or even if you take the money line on a dog, you're profitable, maybe making 2-1 on your money.
Right.
So horse racing is 2 minutes long. I mean, the work beforehand, the preparation, still you have to prepare. If you're a sports game where you're putting in the time, you're putting in the effort of handicapping the sports. But horse racing, I mean, you can move right on to the next wager, next track, whatever you want to do. There's so many, 7 days a week, basically 24 hours a day. You can find value somewhere in the form of investing in horse racing. And that's what I really try to push. People are like, oh, horse racing is not doing as. I just wish we could find a way to try to teach people that there is value in horse racing, because you're not betting against the house. You are betting against. I'm betting against you.
Well, the problem is, David, is that it's so documented where, the problems. Now, let's use Baffert as an example.
Yeah.
All these young kids.
Let's do that.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, all these young kids, you're watching and you see that, a man is perceived as cheating, perceived as, using something to make his horses run better. So that leaves a foul taste, in a lot of these gamblers' mouths, because LeBron James isn't fixing games. He's making an ultimate salary, whereas these guys are trying to earn their living. So I think that turns off a lot of the younger generation. But like you said, I mean, the younger generation, they're into video games. They're into, betting on the mobile applications and all computers. And, horse racing is that in depth. If you want to really test your brain, like you said, an off track, get into breeding, old school horses. Not too many people know the Sire, the Dam, to use that. Did that horse like a wet track, a Spitestown, for instance. Unbelievable wet track Sire. You keep your eye on these things. And if the track happens to rain, you make your adjustments. And getting back to what you said, who really wants to bet the Brooklyn Nets at 5-2 to win the NBA championship? And you're letting me, the bookmaker, hold your money for an 82-game season, and you're only getting 5-2. Whereas, early voting, you got a beautiful price in the Preakness. Like you said, fastest, the most exciting 2 minutes in racing, whether it's the Derby, the Preakness, or a 15,000 claimer for me and you. It's just, it's amazing and an amazing sport. And if people would just pay attention a little more and, get a little more involved, you'll find that it will test your mind. And, like you said, return on investment is very important as well. You have to gauge that. You have to always consider your bankroll. Don't lose more than you could afford to lose. And you can make those adjustments. Like you said, you don't have to always give your picks 3-4 days out. You run a podcast. I run a podcast. I also, I'm affiliated with VSiN. We give out picks with Dave Tooley. That's a little different. Whereas, some people don't understand. I'll make an adjustment here and there. And, those picks I'm putting out with my heart and soul. But like you said, if there's a torrential downpour, there has to be adjustments. So that makes it difficult for a public handicapper, which I'm not. I'm a bookmaker. I give out my opinion because it is a strong opinion, and people do value it just like yours. So horse racing is definitely something that I think the younger generation needs to be exposed to, as well as the sports gambling. And you have a lot of these books now, David, and I'm not going to name any names, but you look at these straddles where the other night it was amazing. You had the Carolina Hurricanes minus 180 in a game 7, and the New York Rangers plus 110. Now, whoever's booking like that, we're totally against that. Here at the Rampart in South Point, we're going to have the 180 plus 165. Yeah. That's what we want you guys to bet on. We're going to offer you a legitimate product. But now a lot of these young kids who aren't into it and really aren't dissecting what vigorish is and what, gambling and bookmaking techniques are, they just want to get down to bet. They don't realize that they're getting robbed in the same point. And a racetrack, that's another thing they do have to modify, David, the changing of the odds during the race. We all know that. Everybody, I agree. Everybody screams about it from, John Lindo on down the line. Yeah, a good friend of mine, he always documents, hey, 8-1 going in the gate, 5-2 crossing the line. You really don't like to see that. And that didn't happen back in the 80s, 90s. Back in the old days, actually, first horse entered the gate, they would stop wagering. I remember those days, and I remember where there were no pick 4s, no pick 6s. I remember when they started those exotic wagers. I've been around the game so long. So, they do have to modify and adjust that. Without a doubt, the odds changing during the race. But outside of that, I mean, horse racing is a fabulous, fabulous sport. And I think more and more young people need to be exposed to it. That's why you have a fabulous podcast here. And, I promote the crap out of it. I'll be honest with you. I really push it on my podcast as well, because it's the sport of kings.
Yeah, I tell you what, I love all sorts of gambling. I'm passionate mostly about horse racing. I'll talk about 2 guys pitching quarters in the bathroom. I don't care. Let's get some action going, right? Yeah, right. I'm all about it. Right. And one of my very good friends that very well, one of his favorite lines is "Let's hold hands and jump together, brother." Let's go. let's do it, right?
Right.
So one of the things you talk about lines changing after, one of the first times I've ever noticed it. Like really, once in a while I would notice it, but when it really started with the computer betting, these teams came in and started betting last second. One of the times I really noticed, I play a lot of online handicapping tournaments. That's where I put most of my efforts into, and I seem to be pretty profitable with them. So it's something that I had just started really getting into at the time. And if Renze Fire was 7-1, I believe he was 5-6 or 7-1 right before they opened the gates. Right. And as they're turning for home, I noticed he's 5-2.
Right.
And taking the lead and drawing off at 5-2. And I came in second because of that.
Right.
I mean, I'm winning the tournament.
You're winning the tournament at 7-1, but you're second at 5-2.
I'm winning it 4-1.
Right.
I'm winning
Exactly.
it even at 4-1 if he
Right.
wins. And he drops from 7-1 to 5-2 on the click. And I don't even notice it till he takes the lead at the top of the stretch. I'm watching the race, but they're showing the odds. He obviously at some point clicked to 5-2, and I ran second by I believe it was like a 40-cent margin. It's mythical wagering,
Yeah.
and I couldn't believe it. And that click in my brain cost me over $4,000 for the difference of first and second.
Sure.
And I was not happy. That's when I first became aware of the click after. It happens. The bell rings, then the odds set. But that I've never seen anything like
That
from
drastic.
7-1 to 5.
Right,
That drastic.
right.
And I guess I never really paid that close attention because it was for so much money.
Sure.
And I would have been mad even if I honestly, if I had $5 to win in place on the horse or $10 to win on the horse, I'd have been livid anyway.
Right.
Going thinking I'm getting $70, $70 win. I mean, at 4-1, okay, all right, that's extreme. But 5-2,
Right.
that's an extreme movement in lines, and that's a deterrent for new people. They don't understand. They don't understand, and not only explaining to them about pari-mutuel wagering, where if you see the morning line, whoever sets the morning line, or wherever the horse is at, oh well, when you bet a sporting event, that's the price you get. You're locked in.
Right.
Whatever the line moves, you are locked in. So try to explain that to somebody who bets 7-1 when they make the bet. They understand. Okay, you're betting, and now I'm only getting 2.5 to 1. May not have
Very
made the
difficult.
bet. Right?
Yeah.
Very
It's difficult.
Explain
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's happening more often. That's the problem, David. Like you said, now we are seeing a lot of these drastic line changes during the running of the race. And it started with that, the pick six with Valponi winning the Breeders' Cup Classic. We knew that there was some pass posting going on there. And, they were able to sniff that out. I definitely believe the computers and the computer generated pools and bets are being funneled in at the last minute, which is so unfortunate, especially in your case. And I'm very familiar. I qualified for the Horse Players World Series twice on horse tourneys, free satellites, earned my way in. And before you know it, you're getting a $1,500 entrance fee into a massive Las Vegas tournament. So that does hurt. And especially when you lose by 40 cents, like you said, and you feel that you're getting such value at 7-1 as you're seeing these horses load into the gate, and then the odds change. So that's definitely one of the problems that horse racing has to correct. And, I think they're going to start to work on it. I believe also they have to get one universal governing body to oversee all these tracks. Stewards, some of their calls and, they're head scratchers. You have to look at the background of some of these stewards. There's been so many different, name calling accusations from trainers against stewards, jockeys. It doesn't matter. So, it's an in-depth sport. I think we need a full governing body. I think they should go back to the old school way where possibly, when the first horse enters, let the pool stop so we could get a truer feel of what the true odds are on the horse and what it's going to close. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like you said, you bet the Packers or the Cowboys, it says on your ticket 7. That's what it is. Whereas, horse racing, pari-mutuel, a lot of people don't understand that. What that means is that the money is coming in from all angles of the country. Some even foreign money is coming in as well. And it is not locked in until the race starts running. And all those pools are, basically divided up. And that's when you get pari-mutuel odds as opposed to fixed odds.
It's just, I feel like we have the same brain, Duane. I just had this conversation, a 2-hour conversation the other day with somebody about me pitching the idea for one governing body for horse racing and explaining why it's needed. We don't need the NCAA, but we need something, right?
Right. Yeah.
We need absolutely something where we know what to expect. And that's one of the turnoffs to new people is why is it okay in California for this to happen, but it's not okay in Kentucky? So somebody experienced like myself, as somebody who bets my money, I'm going to know, or one of the things I look for are what are the rules. Anytime I sit down in the poker tournament, poker room, I go in a different place. I look, what are your general rules? So I know. But that's somebody like me that's willing to do the work to do it. But for a random person who we want to get into the sport. Well, what do you mean if I bet this track they have different rules? And what do I mean if I go to New York, they have different rules? It's just too much. I don't want to deal with it, right?
You can't whip at certain tracks now. Monmouth has a whip restriction. Yeah. Southern Cal has the whip restriction, or crop, whatever you want to call it. Definitely medication lists are different at different tracks. Very great point that you're making, David. So I'm fully behind you with that. We need one governing body, one universal. If Bob Baffert is suspended in New York, he's suspended all over the country. And they're starting to, definitely modify that and make the correct changes. But in the past, I mean, you've had poster boys like Richard Dutrow, who, he's the poster child. Okay, Baffert definitely has these medication violations, and they're coming up in Kentucky Derby horses. Whereas Dutrow, it wasn't even that severe, but 10 years for him. Bob Baffert will be back in 90 days. So, there definitely has to be some consistency.
Well,
that's the word I want to use.
The last one I want to talk about this, as far as like the stewards, well, just in general stewards. And I mean, Bob Baffert had such a stranglehold, especially in California. And we could just talk about the Breeders' Cup Classic, Byron taking out half the field, right? Yeah. I mean, how does that horse?
I was there.
How does that horse not come down? I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
and they use that term now, the Bayern move. That's like synonymous now, because horses do this. And in California, it seems like you get away with it. If you do that, at Belmont, you're going down. So, I don't know.
I mean, like I said, we could go hours talking about this, and it's part of the sport that I really like to get into. But one of the most fun parts is making the wagers and getting ready for days like Belmont Day. So before we get into Belmont Day, and I want to tell you, Belmont weekend, Friday and Saturday, as far as I'm concerned, is right just a notch underneath Breeders' Cup weekend. And I just think it's definitely, to me, probably my third favorite weekend. And we have Saratoga, we have Del Mar meets coming up, but Belmont weekend, the Friday and Saturday combination of races, I know that you love New York racing, and I just think the way it's put together is probably just a notch below Breeders' Cup weekend.
Right.
So let's start off with the Kentucky Derby this year. Rich Strike, perfect ride, perfect scenario for a horse like that. Still, yes, 80-1. And we're going to talk about a little bit about the odds, and you talk about looking at different pools, and I'm going to explain exactly what you were talking about. But let's get your thoughts on the Derby and Rich Strike.
It was a shocker, I'll be honest. I bet Zandon. I knew Epicenter was definitely going to be the horse to beat. The horse came rumbling up the rail, had a few prep races, the Ruby Stakes there at Turfway. Most of his preps were at Turfway. Eric Reed, hard to get a read on him, choice words there, didn't have a horse that had a buyer speed figure over 95. And then, Rich Strike surpasses that. And you're talking about an extensive stable that Mr. Reed has. So he got in the last couple of minutes, and I'm virtually talking minutes. Right. He was going to be a scratch. He was on the also eligible list. So very hard to handicap and come up with Rich Strike unless you're just picking names or, your favorite color that the jockey was wearing. Sonny Leon, I mean, I could name 19 better riders in that race, or more experienced and more professional, but he got the job done. It was a fabulous ride. And, now it's his fame that is out there. Rich Strike chose to skip the Preakness, which also was a head scratcher, because you rarely see that unless, another track like Garden State used to put up a massive amount for the, where you saw a horse that won the Kentucky Derby, but was offered $1 million for an appearance fee and, went to Garden State. Yeah, you don't see that too often, where a horse wins the first leg of the Triple Crown and skips the second leg. So, I think he has an excellent chance in the Belmont. He's definitely going to like the distance, but going into the Derby, he was not a horse I could have selected. I'll be totally honest with you guys. I just didn't feel he was one of the top, even 10 contenders in that field. And I was wrong, and that's what's great about horse racing is that if you could admit when you're wrong, and like we said, there weren't too many people that backed this horse, and you got the 80-1, you'd seen $160 pari-mutuel payoff, very difficult, not too many people on the track or at the simulcasting facilities wagered on this horse as well. So that's why you saw these incredible odds. Very hard to gauge. He did have that monstrous win at Churchill Downs where he was claimed by Eric Reed and the ownership. So, there was some angles in hindsight, but very difficult for me to wager on that horse. Now, going into the Belmont, it won't be as difficult because I don't feel that the field is, that accomplished. I mean, naturally, Mo Donegal is turning out to be the wise guy horse, but Rich Strike beat him at Churchill Downs. So let's put that into consideration. I think a lot of people are, with Mo Donegal, they're looking at how good early voting ran, but early voting skipped and is conditioned by Chad Brown, skipped the Kentucky Derby. So, Chad Brown's the best conditioner in the world, in my opinion. So, early voting, I was all over him in the Preakness, whereas, a lot of people didn't pick him. My syndication with Tully's Thoroughbred Takes, Dave Tully, nobody picked early voting. I was the only person that picked him. So, I'm not sure. I think Rich Strike is going to be actually the horse to beat, but let's focus in on this. The whole race is about we the people. If this horse just gets out there and they let him just gallop, Dave, it's going to be tough because this race seems to be lacking a little pace. Now, I think Nest will sit a little closer. Some of the other horses, they're going to have to because you don't want Flavian Pratt just to control the tempo. It could be just out of the gate and across the finish line.
Yeah, a lot of people, what they don't understand about the Belmont, it is a very long race. It's one of the longest thoroughbred races running throughout the year. And what a lot of people don't understand is speed is important, especially lone speed. We can just go back and, one of my biggest scores in the Belmont was Palace Malice, right? So you have to be close. I think people, big closers, more time to close. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't in horse racing. I believe that if there's going to be a soft pace, which we the people could get out there and just loaf on the lead and draw off and nobody could get close, right? So thoughts, anybody that could go with him? I don't see anybody that can go with him. I just don't know if he's good enough.
Right.
He's going to be a short price, and I am going to look to beat him, but I will use him in the exotics. So is there anybody you think that could stay close?
Well, it's like I said, I definitely think looking at the form that Nest is going to have to sit a little closer. Creative Minister, he likes to sit close, but he's going to have to stay closer to the pace. Mo Donegal, they're all going to have to, you can't fall 20 lengths behind in a race like this. It's a mile and a half. And, if you can accelerate, and, a push button horse, people like to say, well, he could accelerate at any time. Yeah, well, we'll see. This is Big Sandy, and we've seen some of the greatest horses fail over this mile and a half strip. So I definitely think that you're going to have the filly sit closer, Creative Minister, Golden Glitter, horses like this. Somebody's going to have to take the initiative. But like you said, is we the people that good? You go back here in the Arkansas Derby, he was nowhere against some of these contenders. And let's keep in mind, he had his way in the Peter Pan. That was at, Belmont Park. So it's very important to have a race over the track. That's why I think the filly also has a chance because she's accomplished over 4 different racetracks. And This is a soft field. This is not a monstrous field. You do not have, who I feel are the best 3-year-olds in this race outside of Rich Strike and Mo Donegal. So, pace could play a factor, but I think this horse will pack it in at about the 8th pole. And then we're going to have the vultures basically swarming and trying to take advantage. And it is all about the trip. That, David. You saw what happened to Smarty Jones. He looked like he was a Triple Crown winner. It was just the trip. Different jockeys. The race is so long that different horses will challenge you. They're going to jockey for position, even though there's only 8 horses in the race. It's still a difficult trip to navigate. And I also feel that you have to have an excellent rider. You know, we've
Oh,
seen guys like Stuart Elliott. You know, he
yep.
was a little inexperienced at that
Yep.
point. Even though he's a wily veteran, he got
Yep.
schooled in that race by some of the better riders. And
Yep.
Sonny Leon is going to have to face that because he's not, you know, he's familiar with Belmont Park, but he's not a regular rider there like Irad Ortiz, Jose
Right.
Ortiz. And these guys, they want to win every race. The Ortiz brothers, Joel Rosario, they want to prove a point. So you definitely have to be aware if you're Sonny Leon, and you have to keep this horse a little closer. But I think he can navigate the trip. I mean, he really accelerated well. He's been galloping at Belmont well. He's got a beautiful workout at Churchill prior to being shipped to Belmont. It's going to be an interesting race because most of the major contenders are closers, and you do have this one pace horse that took the Peter Pan and just ran with it, but that was a weak field. So I don't believe he'll be able to control the race like he did on that day.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree with everything. One of the horses that I want to look at is Skippy Longstocking. I don't know where he's going to be. I don't know exactly where he's going to end up right out of the gate and where he's going to settle. But I think when I talk a lot about value, and I don't think there's going to be any value with We the People. Yes, I think he's going to be able to work his trip out on the front end, and I don't know if he's good enough. Rich Strike, I'll go the other end. Rich Strike is going to have too much to do, I believe, especially if there is a soft pace up front. I mean, he might absolutely love Belmont Park. He might absolutely love the 1.5 mile distance. I don't know. He's not going to be a win contender for me. I am going to take that short price that you're going to get, maybe 3, 4, 5 to 1 on Rich Strike. It's a throw out for me on the win end. So you're right there. I like Nest a little bit. I think she's going to be placed right off. If We the People is not good enough, I think she's going to get first run. And that, to me, that first run move is so
Very
huge,
important.
especially very important at Belmont Park,
Right.
especially because a lot of riders make their move too soon
Right.
at Belmont and they have nothing left. I think that We the People and Nest are going to be far enough ahead that even if Nest makes the move too early, she's still going to have quite a bit in front of who's behind her to catch her. So, I mean, I'm going with Nest. I just
That was my second. That's my second choice in the race, David. And I'll tell you the truth. If Jose Ortiz gives that ride just the way he rode early voting, that was my philosophy in the Preakness, was that Epicenter was going to have to come and catch early voting because he was going to be first over off of the speed. Now, the filly is definitely capable. She had a rough trip in the Oaks. Don't kid yourself. She had a rough trip and had a lot to do to catch Secret Oath. So don't buy into that. She won at 1 1/8 mile, at Aqueduct, which is a very difficult surface as well. This filly definitely has a massive chance. And that's why I said Jose Ortiz is the perfect fit outside of Irad, who has to go to Mo Donegal, because Jose's going to keep the horse close, like you said. And she definitely will get first crack run. And then it puts even more pressure on Mo Donegal and Rich Strike to make up that ground late. The long shot, actually, that's who I gave as my long shot, Skippy Longstocking, has the most experience in the race, has put together some good runs, is definitely going to appreciate the added distance. It's just a matter of, does this horse have the class? I know that Nest has a lot of class, even though she's a filly. We know Rich Strike, he overcame the 20-horse field. Mo Donegal beat early voting. So, the whole key with Skippy Longstocking is he's run against really quality horses and on that Derby trail, but, just sniffs fifth, sixth, fourth, has to get into the money. And I believe that's another horse that's going to be really closing late. And if the race turns out like you say, this is a horse that could finish in the top 2, because if Nest kicks clear and Mo Donegal and Rich Strike spin their wheels trying to catch her, they could back up. And then the last move sometimes gets second or third. So excellent handicapping on your part. I'm thinking
race hasn't run yet.
Hey, I'm telling you, it's good handicapping regardless. It's just, you're showing people what you feel is going to happen and your experience, and it's very knowledgeable. And I agree with most of what you're saying. I just feel that Rich Strike will be able to just reel in barely Nest. And I told you, Nest is my second choice behind Rich Strike, and Skippy Longstocking is my long shot. So, I'm always betting what I feel and putting out my best picks. And I respect that you have a great handicapping technique, and I could see that you know what you're talking about. Even though the race hasn't run yet, who cares? You're putting out a concise opinion and a very knowledgeable one.
Yeah, once again, it's not only you have to not. It has to be value, right? Or I'm not going to bet. I'm not going to bet.
That's what's lacking with Rich Strike. You're right about that, because anybody, and especially in Vegas with $2, $3, especially my clientele at the Rampart Casino, we have an older clientele. You're going to get a lot of these older ladies coming up. Oh, give me $2 on the Derby winner. Give me $5 on the Derby winner. They just bet the Derby winner blindly. It's like the Vegas Golden Knights cross-sport. People just go, oh, give me the Knights tonight. I want the Vegas Golden Knights. Yeah, that's how a Kentucky Derby winner is, or that's how Zenyatta was, a very popular horse. And that's also getting back to Bob Baffert. Oh, give me Baffert's horse. So these horses do get depleted odds. And you're right, you won't get the massive value on Rich Strike that you should get. True odds should be 5-1. You're going to see 2-1, 3-1. I don't even think you're going to see 4-1.
So I'm going to back up a little bit and go back to the Derby with Rich Strike. And you're going to absolutely know exactly what I'm talking about here. So 80-1,
right?
Seems like an incredible price on a horse. 80-1. I mean, that's a great price. Whether the horse has a realistic chance of winning or not, that's 80-1. Unbelievable. The true odds on that horse were about 235-1, and I'll explain. You'll understand where I'm coming from. That I absolutely was all over Secret Oath in the Oaks. That was my play of the weekend, was Secret Oath in the Oaks. So what I did was a lot of Oaks Derby doubles. And I did $1 backup ticket, Secret Oath all, which is normally something I wouldn't bet because there's not a lot of value. But I had told myself that if something strange happens in the Derby, right, a disqualification, whatever, I had put a substantial amount of money, and that $1 ticket could get me even if one of the big bombs won the second leg. So Secret Oath wins, right? So now I'm rolling in with a $50 double with Epicenter, $30 double with Zandon, and I believe a $35 double with Smile Happy. That was my biggest ticket. And then I had I think an $8 double with Zozos. But I had that dollar ticket, Secret Oath all. And coming down the stretch, I'm like, okay, 1-2. Here's Zandon Epicenter. I'm making some money, right? I'm going to make some money here. I mean, I had a win bet on Secret Oath also, so I was basically free rolling in the doubles. Right. So crossing the wire, I thought it was Happy Jack. Well, Happy Jack was paying, I believe, $535 on the dollar double. Okay, so I'm gonna make some money. I didn't realize it was Rich Strike. 80-1, the highest paying double. The $1 double paid $975. So if we take $1 to win on Secret Oath at 4-1, and we put $5 to win at 80-1, that's $400.
Right.
So 2.5 times that we took it. So in the pools, you got 80-1 to win, but realistically, the value of Rich Strike was 235-1, 240-1.
Right.
That was the real price of the horse.
Correct.
And I try to explain to people that 80-1 was a horrible price.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
It was an absolute horrible price on that horse. So,
and you don't know why? Because there was no standout, David. That's what the point was. There was no standout going into that race. You knew Epicenter was going to take a lot of money, but you knew Zandon was going to take a little money. White Barrio. You had a ton of horses. You got the Florida connections, the New York connections, people like Mo Donegal. That's why there was so many opinions out there that actually Rich Strike, even you had people, oh, give me 20 to win on him, just for the hell of it. And that depleted the true odds. So great point that you're making. The double is where, like we said, you look at crossover pools. That's where you see what the true odds should be, because you're going to see that $900 for $1. And what was Epicenter? $30, for $1.
25, 10 for the dollar.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So now going in who the true favorite is and who the biggest long shot is. But the odds did get depleted just because it was a wide open Derby this year. And you didn't have the Baffert factor as well. Even though Yachtine was training his horses without Bob there, if he's training those two horses, they're going to take a lot more money. So, that's just my opinion on how it goes. And I think you agree as well that the odds were way less on race day than what they should have been. And, I'm sure in future books, whether it was, in Vegas or across the country, his odds had to be massive. So I'm sure a few books, got hurt with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, I want to talk about the undercard. We're doing this on Friday, the day before the Belmont Stakes. We've gone over the Belmont. Is there anything that stands out to you on any of the undercard? We won't. Well, we're not going to go through every race, but I could go through every race.
We could, right? Exactly. I'm just
right.
I still have to work, David.
Yeah, I understand. If there is or isn't anything that of value that stands out for you, like I said, this is like a Breeders' Cup weekend.
Yes.
For me.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's a lot of value in tomorrow's race. I know it's going to be fun to watch. So from your side, and would you like anything tomorrow before the Belmont?
Well, being honest, I mean, you look at these, you have all the superstars are out and you have small fields. So it's going to be a little difficult to get some value. Looking at the 10th race to Manhattan, that's where there's going to be some value if you find any. I mean, you look earlier on in the card, I really, I find it hard to see Jack Christopher losing the Woody Stevens. That horse is going to be odds on. Latruska, she's a monster. I don't think Clariere is good enough, or Malathot. A lot of people are backing Malathot, but I think Latruska will get the job done. Malathot has an excellent chance, though, don't get me wrong. Also, you're seeing a lot of short prices. Flightline. This horse is a monster. This could be one of the best horses in the country, if not the best horse in the country. Yeah. Focused in on the Met Mile. John Sadler has coddled this horse. So I'm just throwing out the big names that you're going to hear. And I think Aloha West has a slight chance. Breeders' Cup Sprint.
Say the name again.
Aloha West. Aloha West. Yeah, definitely has a slight chance to upset Flightline as long as Speaker's Corner goes out with Flightline. That's the whole key. Do not let this horse walk around the track. And I think Junior Alvarado is smart enough to know, I don't know if the horse has enough speed to keep up, but if you could push Flightline to where, let him work a little, let him run a 21 quarter and a 44 half, then maybe Aloha West could come pick up the pieces. So I do like Aloha West as a shot to beat Flightline, but Flightline is so difficult to beat. I'll be honest with you. You look at the Brooklyn Max Player, maybe he could bounce back into a good race, but you're seeing a short field there, and Fearless and Lone Rock, they're going to be very difficult. Now, like I said, let's go to the 10th race, the Manhattan. This is where you could definitely get a price and you can make some money, David.
But before you start, I want to throw you out my pick, because I don't want to give it to you, because if it's the same, I'm just one of the things you talked about earlier, and I really wanted to get to this race, so we're not going to go. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. But we talk about Chad Brown, and you're saying one of the best conditioners ever, and you're talking a morning line. You're going to give me Rock Emperor, Irad Ortiz, and Chad Brown at 10-1. Your thoughts? That's my pick for this race, and then I want to hear what you have to say.
I bet him last time and obviously didn't like the off-going. So the track has to be firm for Rock Emperor to run. And you rarely see a Chad Brown horse that is basically eased, David. So this horse has an excellent chance, as well as his bondmate, Tribuvan. I mean, if this horse gets loose, the horse was really good early last year. But now it seems to be a different racehorse. But Franco is very acclimated, and he knows how to control the speed. So I actually like Tribuvan because I believe that he's going to control the pace in this race with Rock Emperor. I love Chad Brown. If you look at my handicapping techniques, it's very rare that I'm not using a Chad Brown horse in my formula. And I believe this is the type of race where you could make some money because Gufo is going to get smashed. He's definitely going to get hit hard. Highland Chief will get bet just off the last race because it was so solid. Like you said, Rock Emperor, you're looking at a horse where basically was eased last time, so that's going to raise the price. But you're getting the legend, Irad Ortiz. This guy is already a legend. He is the best rider in the country. I know there's the Flavian Pratt advocates and all different, people that feel Paco Lopez, whoever you feel, John Velasquez. Irad Ortiz has the most skill in the game right now. And he has a great mind as well. And he always looks to win. So, yeah, I would definitely look to be boxing the Chad Brown horses here to get a really nice price in this race, because this is not, there's no standouts. I mean, Channel Maker could even run. And how old is the horse, David?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The horse has been around forever. So, you know, definitely this is a race where you can make money. I like your horse and I like Tribuvan. I think that Chad Brown is going to be holding all the aces, and the public really isn't going to anticipate that happening. So, yeah, definitely. I think that's the race where you can make money, because I don't want to chase Flightline, Jack Christopher, Latruska. I mean, these are champions. You know that. Yeah. Jack Christopher is facing a weak field, in my opinion. And I mean, really have to tremendously bounce to lose that race. Now, like I said, Latruska is facing 2 solid fillies. Don't get me wrong. Definitely could lose. I'm going to take a shot with Aloha West, hoping that Speaker's Corner presses Flightline, but definitely to Manhattan and probably to Belmont. You can make some good money, barring We the People just going out, because going to take a lot of money. They're going to see that lone speed. Handicappers, you know, at Belmont especially, are not stupid. They're definitely going to see that, and they're going to bet this horse. And they're going to bet the Derby winner, because it's the Derby winner. So, you know, if you could hit an exotic without We the People in there, the Belmont also is a good betting race. But the Manhattan is probably the best on the card, I would say.
Yeah, and you could take your 7 horse in the Manhattan and bet your horses in the double. There's going to be value there, for sure.
Yes.
Especially with how much money We the People is going to take, right?
Yeah, and you know me, I love my pick 4s. So I'm going to be betting pick 4s, pick 3s. I'm a maniac. So, you know, I don't want to always say, because of how the takeouts are nowadays with these exotics, these pick 4s and, you know, pick 5s. The takeout is very severe, but, you know, it's still the cross race bets that you're going to make your biggest score on. And, you know, also trifectas and superfectas in the race itself. So, you know, money management is definitely important, but I love the picks. I'll be honest with you.
Well, we are going to have another meeting, because we talk about money management. I mean, we can go into all the other stuff we didn't get a chance to cover, but before I let you go back to work, and I know you got a job to do, but I'm having so much fun with you, and I know whoever's going to see this is going to love it also. So let's talk about your podcast.
Yes.
And the name alone,
right?
Before we talk about what you talk about, which I already know, if and reverse. Can you explain that?
Well, and if you're synonymous with old school bookmaking, you know, and especially it's an East Coast term, what an if bet is. And also, these are not wagers that we offer in Las Vegas, unfortunately. And a lot of the bookmakers, I will say, whether they're legal or illegal or offshore, are not offering these wagers. It's more of an old school terminology. It's an if bet, and then you also have the reverse. So what it is double the payoff, but you're also putting up double the money. So, you know, it's an old school term. Not too many people are going to be familiar with it, but it's from my roots, basically back in Queens and Brooklyn, where everybody would bet if and reverses. And, you know, it's what bookmakers would take. It's similar to a parlay. Let me put it to you. So, you know, even Chris Andrews, when I hit him with it, he was like, I don't even know what a reverse bet is. So a lot of people on the West Coast don't know what it is. I have tweeted it out, and I will tweet it out again, the total explanation on how it works, because it's very hard on a video to explain. I would need to write down, you know, and explain it to you. And off the air, I definitely will. You could also look it up on Google, but it's not a bet that is readily available with DraftKings, FanDuel, South Point, Rampart. We don't offer those bets. We offer the parlays, the teasers. And if bet is Giants, if Rangers. So then you have the Giants if the Rangers win, basically. That's how your money goes. And then you reverse it is the reverse terminology. It's an if bet and it's reversed, which is called a reverse bet. And it's synonymous with bookmakers on a somewhat illegal stream. So I don't want to get too crazy with it.
I mean, allegedly, right? Allegedly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my favorite word, Wayne. Allegedly. Everything's allegedly in my life. I allegedly had a tuna sandwich last night. I don't know.
I love it. Definitely. But yeah, the podcast, it's readily available on all major platforms. I break down most of the major races. I always do a Breeders' Cup pod. I always do a Derby pod, going into football. And I love to cover the NHL, like I told you. And there is always a horse racing segment on every episode of If and Reverse. I push the horse racing. That's my bread and butter. Love Saratoga, love Del Mar, love the Belmont Fall Championship meet. This meet, like you said, it's basically a mini Breeders' Cup this weekend, which starting right, now with 23 minutes till the fourth race. I have it right up in front of my face. It's my life. And, I will give out picks. I give out picks with each and every week. And, it's a great feel if you're into sports gambling and you're into horse racing. I share my knowledge, and especially bookmaker knowledge. I have a lot of old school stories from the social clubs back in the day and the card rooms that, I was brought up around in Brooklyn, in Queens. Gambling was not legal. It was only Las Vegas. You have to keep that in mind.
Allegedly, Duane.
Exactly. So, I was underage and, we'll just leave it at that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly,
allegedly, I heard something that might happen.
Back in the day, it might have happened. It might not have. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I was there or I was at the movies. I don't know. I heard about it.
Right. And I have, a lot of those old school stories I'll cover. And I also, what's unique about my pod is I give you what the bookmaker point of view is. No bookmaker is really doing a podcast. They'll advertise for their properties, but I'm going to tell you the big bets that we take in, certain situations, how we handle certain situations, how I garnered my knowledge and garnered knowledge growing up, basically not growing up in Las Vegas, but in New York and on the East Coast, and being around and rubbing elbows with some of the greats and professional handicappers, as well as bookmakers and stuff like that. So, it's a lot of fun, and it's from a bookmaker's perspective. And, I encourage questions. I encourage, basically social networking with, the podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. These are all great tools that we didn't have in the past. And to share all knowledge and information, it's my pleasure to do that.
When does your podcast come out? Is it a weekly?
It's about monthly. I do it like once a month. I'll be honest with you. I try to do it twice a month. We were off the air for a little while because I had some agreements and different things. I was getting using newer technology for sound and stuff like that behind the scenes. Nothing to do with me. Just basically enhancing the podcast and the feel and trying to get it out there to as many people as possible. But I try to do it once a month.
Okay, so to know when it comes out, how do people get a hold of you? How do they follow you? Can you let them know?
Yeah, I'm on all major platforms, social media, Twitter at NYBookie Duane, Duane, which is how you spell my name. I'm named after Duane Allman. That's another little tidbit. So, Twitter is my most prominent. You can find me on Facebook. Just type my name in, Duane Colucci, Colucci. I always encourage questions. I have an Instagram account as well. But Twitter is where I mostly post the big tickets that we put out there. Me, myself, Jimmy Vaccaro, between Rampart and South Point, we'll put out the big bets. We'll inform you of our lines. I always put out the NFL spreads that we offer at the Rampart. As soon as we put them up on Monday morning, I will tweet out that sheet. I have tweeted out the games of the year, which we have available for college football now, over under, win totals. For the NFL, all that good stuff I put out on my Twitter account. So that's where you really want to follow me, is at NYBookie Duane, but also the other social media platforms. And if you're looking for a job, I'm on LinkedIn, so easily find me. Just type my name in and you're going to see also links to the podcast. Also, I'm on VSiN every Sunday night at 7:30. I do every other week My Guys in the Desert with Stormy Bonantoni, who is taking over for Brent Musburger. Great show. I'm on 104.5 ESPN weekly Thursday at 4:30 Pacific with Jimmy Ott, my man, breaking down the hockey. I mean, Dave, I was like 80% this year in the NHL giving out.
What? Are you kidding me?
I was roaring. I'm telling you, I have to just go. I have to go to Louisiana just to see these gentlemen because they said I'm worshipped. And I haven't even been to New Orleans or Louisiana ever in my life, but the hockey picks really were excelling this year. And we had the Lightning last night, gave it out on both those shows, My Guys in the Desert, as well as Jimmy Ott's Game Time. So, we're doing really some good things here for the Rampart Casino and in Las Vegas. And I love being a bookmaker. I love being a gambler as well. It's just full circle. It's my life and I take pride in it. I really try to, share the information that I can. Don't, like to lie or shade. We just put it out there and we're all a big unit. I always try to say that. Even the sharpest of gamblers, Bill Krakenberger, and we're the bookmakers against these guys. I take pictures with them. We're friends. There's no ill will. It's a community. That's how we look at it. Yes,
absolutely.
Definitely.
I'm afraid you talked about it. That's how I contacted you first, was on LinkedIn. I didn't even know you were friends with a mutual friend of ours. And I tell you what, I'm afraid if I moved to Vegas and came to work for you, I don't know how long you would have a job, be honest with you. I don't see anything productive out of that. I have a feeling that we might allegedly not do what we're supposed to do. So, everyone,
there's no betting out of the till there, sir.
What's that?
No betting out of your till, out of your own window.
Oh, all right.
Gaming violation, sir.
2 seconds. You said something about learning to be a ticket typer. At our local track, I decided to do it for fun. I was a ticket typer for 7 years at our local track here in St. Louis called Fairmont Park. Allegedly, maybe I might have, maybe not.
Short one day.
Asked if my drawer was a little short and had to make it up. I don't know. That might have happened.
It allegedly happened.
Once or 300 times. I don't know. But I have so many funny stories about that. My boss came over to me once on Derby Day, and I'm doing it. I don't know why I did on Derby. Derby Day is one of my favorite days, and I just volunteered to work Derby Day. I'm like, well, everybody has to work Derby Day if you work there. Right. If you want to still work there 3-4 days a year, whatever, you have to work Derby Day. So I have a line 30-40 deep and I'm screaming. So the people inside of me, they can't hear what their customers are. I'm screaming on an undercard race. And my boss comes over and goes, you can't be doing that. Right. You can't be doing that. Nobody can hear. I said, I had a pick 4 going for $3,000. Are you kidding me? He goes, David, you can't. I mean, this is allegedly. I made a wager.
You were allegedly reprimanded.
Yes. Yeah. But that wasn't a one-time thing. It was every year on Derby Day. So finally they stuck me in the slowest window in a box in the clubhouse. There was two of us, and I had my own TV up there, and it was very, very slow. It was the slowest part of the race that they finally put me there. That's when I said, I think I'll just stay at home and enjoy the Derby. I had the machine and a TV, and once in a while a bettor would come to the window. I'm like,
they put you at the $5,000 window.
wait. Unfortunately, I didn't make much money, because tellers, but from the tip side of it,
right.
But I was like, yeah, maybe I should just not do this anymore. So that was the last time that I type tickets. But you talk about typing tickets, we could share stories for hours. Duane Colucci, sports and racebook manager for the Rampart Casino in Las Vegas. Thank you so much for joining me, and I have a feeling we'll be in contact soon.
Yeah, definitely, David. Great time and really a pleasure. And so thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. This was so much fun. One of the best podcasts I've been on.
Thank you. I hope you'll come back.
I will, definitely. Thank you.
Hey guys, producer Robert here from The Winning Ticket. I want to tell you about my friend Brendan Carter. He's an insurance broker right here in St. Louis. He specializes in home and auto insurance, but he can insure it all. Home, auto, renters. It's summer, So your boats, your RVs, motorcycles, seasonal homes, and much more. If you have not had your insurance reviewed recently, you're probably paying too much. And guess what? A quote is free. A 5-minute call is all it takes to get the info for a quote and see if Brendan can save you some money on your insurance. He's a broker, so he can shop multiple companies to give you the best rate. Brendan has been in the business for years and will take care of all of your insurance needs. Have you just moved? Give Brendan a call. Teenage drivers, call Brendan. Kids left at home, call Brendan. You can reach him at 618-234-1121, extension 4. Again, 618-234-1121, extension 4. All of his info is on the Winning Ticket website as well, and you can give him a call and save yourself some money.